convention, there are two of those. There are two 1.81s. There's a negative one and a positive one. So, our critical value for this test is positive 1.81. If I were doing a one-tailed test, looking at the other end, you would tell me the critical value was negative 1.81. So I want you to mark it to show me that you know. If you leave it blank, it could be that you know, but I don't know for sure. If we were doing a test that was two-tailed, and you had to look up a critical value in this table, then we would be looking for something, right? We'd be looking in both ends, for example. Then you would tell me that T critical was plus or minus 1.81. Okay? You'd be telling me that it could be either one of those. That there's two tails I'm looking at. So when you tell me a critical value, if it's possible that it could be positive or negative or both, you need to mark it so that I know. And for t-tests, it could always be one or the other or both. So I want you to mark it for me. Don't leave it blank and say, oh, well, everybody knows that no mark means positive. Well, maybe that's a convention, but when it comes to this particular answer, I want you to show me that you know. Intentionally show me that you know. If you don't mark it, and you say, well, everybody knows that it's positive, everybody knows it's a two-tailed test, so it will be positive and negative, then it will be an automatic 1/2 point loss. Because I want you to show me that you know. Be explicit. Okay. So, we figured out what our critical value is. Now, knowing our hypothesis, knowing what kind of test we need to do, knowing what our critical value is, now we can start. So now we can start talking about doing math. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we're going to calculate descriptive statistics for our two groups. We're going to calculate separate statistics for each sample. And these are things that you should know from 3510. Okay? You should know how to get degrees of freedom. In fact, we just did that for both of the samples, right? We know that for the modified group, degrees of freedom is 5. And we know that for the ordinary group, degrees of freedom is 5. Okay? You should be able to calculate the mean for both groups. You should be able to calculate sum of squares for both groups. And sample variance for both groups. Now I'm looking at my clock and it says we don't have time to do those calculations here now. Since those are calculations that you should know how to do, I'm going to ask you to do them in preparation for our discussion next time, and to come to class with those numbers calculated. Okay? If you don't know how, if you don't remember, okay, there are formulas provided here. You're welcome to come see me. You're welcome to talk to Javier. He can tell you how to do it. You can talk to each other, any resources you want, but mean, we've got degrees of freedom already, but the mean, the sum of squares, and the sample variance for each sample. Okay? I want you to have those numbers with you when we begin next time. Okay? And we'll go through and make sure everybody got it right, and then from there we'll move on with the rest of the calculation. Okay? All right? Go for it and be awesome!